6 seed in the Western Conference, but will need a little bit of help. They need to win against the Pelicans, and the Trailblazers have to lose against the Nuggets. Meanwhile, the Clippers, who lost to the Rockets on Friday, they face the Thunder tonight. Because of the current seedings and scenarios, the Lakers and Clippers are likely not going to play until the conference finals. Meanwhile, as for those Nuggets, they could potentially play the Lakers in the first round. Now, there's a lot to unpack with the standings, so we'll welcome in our professor of the playoffs and the play-in tournament, Kurt Goldsberry. Give us the West.
That's right, Maria. There is a lot still up in the air, and you mentioned the Nuggets. They have a big game at Portland tonight, and they might not want to win that game. That's an interesting thing to watch. If the Nuggets win, they likely would play the Lakers. That's why we think the Blazers will win, and this would be the most likely scenario after the games today. The Nuggets lose. That means the Blazers are 6, and look at this, the Lakers would be in the play-in. The other big game in San Francisco, if the Warriors hold serve at home tonight, they will get 8, and then this would be our play-in scenario. Here we have the Lakers, Warriors this week in that first play-in game. How about that? Grizzlies, Spurs. If this just goes chalk, the Warriors would get 8, the Lakers would get 7. And man, look at these matchups in the Western Conference. Jazz, Warriors, Suns rewarded for that great season with the first round matchup against LeBron James and the Lakers.
Oh, that looks too good to be true, honestly, when you're looking at that potential Western Conference bracket. Now, remember, we do have a doubleheader today, and in the second game, look for the Grizzlies to crash the glass. They lead the NBA in second chance points per game, while the Warriors allow the 4th most this season. But of course, Golden State has Steph, who is averaging the 3-pointers the most in a season in NBA history, and obviously the 8 seed is on the line for the Grizzlies and the Warriors. But I want to go back to what Kirk was talking about with the Nuggets, and obviously sitting there now, you could be playing the Mavericks, but if you win and you move up, then you have a chance to be playing the Lakers. They can decide where the Lakers land. They can decide where the Trailblazers land. I mean, what approach should they have going into the last day of the regular season?
Well, Kirk said it exactly right. This is a Portland team that is motivated to win today, and this is a Denver team that on paper, and you look at how it breaks down, there is not great motivation to win this game. I'm told to expect Denver to limit the minutes of their key players today. You're not going to see their key guys on the floor throughout the game. Nikola Jokic is interesting, though. Today will mark, he will achieve his goal of having played in every game this season. That was important to him. His minutes are expected to be lower too, but he loves to play. He loves to compete. So, don't rule out Jokic just going to check himself back into a game later. But I think the plan is for Denver to be really careful with their guys, get some rest, and head to the playoffs, and would put Portland in good position.
And if players and coaches tell you that they don't jockey for position or pay attention to who they're playing, that's like somebody on Wall Street telling you they don't pay attention to the stock market. Like they do. Mm-hmm. It's their job to know. And if you're the Denver Nuggets, what you should know today is that we don't want to play the Lakers in the first round. Mm-hmm. So you go to the Joker and you say, hey, I'll give you the first half, big fella. You give me 20 to 24 minutes. But I also want to keep you healthy so we can practice these next handful of days and get ready for the playoffs.
We've seen so much jockeying in the last week of teams trying to avoid the Lakers in the West. And the fact that the Lakers are in that play-in scenario has changed how teams, not only do you have teams tanking in the NBA, right. You've had playoff teams tanking. And that's been one, I think, of the unintended consequences of this play-in tournament, but also not having the Lakers at the 1 or 2 like you would have normally expected, being down in that 6-7 range.
But the ultimate intended consequence from this play-in is we're going to get a chance to celebrate the top seeds when the playoffs start. So we'll talk about the Suns and the Jazz and the Clippers then. We'll talk about the Nets and the Sixers and then. But now we're focused on the lower part of the bracket, and that's terrific for the league.
Yeah, and it's huge for the last game that we actually have today on our air. It's the Grizzlies, and they're taking on the Warriors. Who do you think benefits more from being locked into the 8 seed?
I believe, and I disagree with Kurt, I think the Memphis Grizzlies are going to find a way, Maria, to get that 8th spot. I think they're going to be extremely motivated to do it, and you just showed a contrast of their styles. Mm-hmm. And their offenses perform dramatically different. When you have Steph Curry, it's unlimited range. When you have John Morant and Valanciunas, it's like points in the paint. And Dylan Brooks, is one of my favorite irrational confidence guys. He's led the league, you ready for this, in fouls the last 2 years. So he don't mind mixing it up with the opponent. I just think they're going to be really motivated, and Jaren Jackson is returning. I believe Memphis gets in the playoffs.
And they've won 5 straight games, so they're feeling good. But you had something to report too, Woj. It concerns the Eastern Conference standings.
Yeah, I'm told Bradley Beal is going to play against Charlotte today. The Wizards need to win to get the 8th seed, move up ahead of Charlotte. And also Bradley Beal in that race with Steph Curry for the scoring title. He's going to have to do a lot of scoring today to win that title. He's 0.04 points behind Curry going into the day, but Beal's been out with that hamstring injury. It'll be interesting to see how many minutes he plays, how hard he pushes today. But I'm told, hey, Brad knows his body the best, and I think they're going to leave a lot up to him today versus Charlotte.
Okay, and our mathematicians, they've done the math, and Brad Beal would have to score 22 points more than Steph in order to win the scoring title, but he plays before Steph. So obviously Steph is going to know exactly how many he has to score.
There's been a couple of classic cases of somebody losing the scoring title at the end
last
of the year.
day.
David Robinson overtaking Shaquille O'Neal, and my legend, the Iceman, George Gervin, over David Thompson. He scored 70, Maria.
Wow.
70.
That's not
To
a
get the
tease
scoring
for
title.
the second game of our doubleheader. I don't know what is. You better tune in to the Warriors taking on the Grizzlies. First, we'll have the Celtics taking on the Knicks. And later on NBA Countdown, we're going to have the plays of the year come. Oh, take a look at C. Webb making his way into the Hall of Fame. He's a class of 2021, and we do have a little bit of a Fab Five reunion. Jalen and I interviewed Chris Webber, and we will be showing that later here on NBA Countdown. You won't want to miss it, so make sure you stay tuned. But it is still the last day of the regular season, and it's also time to celebrate all of those three-pointers we've seen. The season's three-point performance brought to you by Mountain Dew. It is the Jazz who had a historic season from beyond the arc. They averaged nearly 17 three-pointers, the most by any team in a season in league history. Utah also hit 25 three-pointers in a game 4 times this season, which is tied for the most in a season all time. So, all right, you got the Jazz, as Jalen would like to say. They are the second team in league history to have 7 players make 100 three-pointers in a season, joining the 2017-18 Rockets, and that includes one player, Jalen, who you have a very special honor for.
Absolutely. And my irrational confident player of the season probably will never be an all-star. Probably is not going into the Hall of Fame. You know how I know? Because I can relate. It's because he is I and I am him. And you cannot tell my irrational confident player of the year, Jordan Clarkson, when he showed up at the game today, that he was better than Dame Lillard. I guarantee you, when he was driving to the game today, he was like, I'm gonna dominate Dame today. He ain't got nothing on me. Dame who? Right? So check out my guy, Jordan Clarkson, using a high pick and roll action. Maria, look at this. Now the spacing is really distorted. You got a guy here. And by the way, the big fella really want to eat. He want to eat. And Joe Ingles is like a 40% three-point shooter.
They not going.
Right? And it's kind of 1, 2, 3 guys guarding my guy, Jordan Clarkson. But you know what? It don't matter. And 1 from 3. And you cannot tell him that wasn't an amazing shot, or that wasn't an amazing offensive possession, because we have irrational confidence. That's why I love this guy. Check this out. The next play, look at Donovan Spider Mitchell. He's like, I'm the superstar. This is what I want the play to be. Look at him. This is what I want the play to be. And by the way, look at Jordan Clarkson looking at the rearview mirror. He's looking. He hear him. He definitely hear him. But check this out. He don't necessarily follow the instructions. Now look at this. Same thing. 1, 2, 3. All of these guys are ready to defend in the half court. But he's like, you know what? I'm getting a bucket. And avoided injury, because he could have hurt his knee on that play. Look at my guy, Jordan Clarkson, getting in his bag. He's going to make sure that he takes a bucket by all means necessary, and gives us the MJ tongue wag at that. And last, but certainly not least, my 6th man of the year, Jordan Clarkson, initiating offense right here. Again, the thing I love about these plays so much is when he decides that he gonna get a bucket, Maria, he decides that he gonna get a bucket. Now look, all of these guys are watching and paying attention to Jordan. Watch this. I ain't gonna find a way. Oh, I'm getting middle. Watch this. Watch out. Watch your head.
Ooh.
Bang, bang. My guy, Jordan Clarkson, got me tapping the fro for my irrational, confident player of the year of the Utah Jazz. Congratulations.
Congratulations. He's a walk-in bucket for sure, and reminds us of Jay Rose. Meanwhile, coming up on NBA Countdown, let's run the floor in 5 minutes. We're going to explain how multiple teams could be avoiding the Lakers in the playoffs, or at least trying to. In 20 minutes, a reunion of Michigan's finest as new Hall of Fame inductee Chris Webber is joining the show. And in 27 minutes, Jalen Rose takes us on a journey of who runs the Big Apple. Is it the Knicks or is it the Nets?
See Webb going in the Hall of Fame.